Hey wonderful people! Today, we're diving into a chilling case that has baffled investigators for nearly half a century. This is the case of Gretchen Harrington, an 8-year-old girl, who disappeared without a trace on her way to Bible school. A serene summer morning in a small town, where children play freely and everyone knows each other. In such a tight-knit community, the sudden disappearance of a young girl sent shockwaves that would reverberate for decades. The police and hundreds of volunteers searched everywhere but couldn't find the girl. For 48 long years, her case remained a chilling mystery, until an unexpected twist helped reveal the horrifying truth. We journey into the past, exploring every twist and turn, every hidden clue, and every heart-wrenching detail. Prepare yourself for a story of betrayal and horror, where trust was violated in the most unimaginable ways. Gretchen Harrington was born on June 13, 1967, in Pope County, Minnesota. She was the youngest of 3 daughters. Soon after her birth, the family moved to the small town of Brummel. She was raised in a deeply religious family. Her father, a pastor, got a job at the local church. Gretchen loved this town because it seemed like paradise for children. Therefore, she spent a lot of her time outdoors with her sisters and new friends. Brummel was a safe place, so parents weren't afraid to let their children play outside until dark. Because of her religious background, Gretchen spent a lot of time at her father's church. She also excelled in Sunday school, always getting top grades. On the morning of August 15, 1975, everything changed. Gretchen and her sister eagerly awaited the arrival of her mother and newborn sister from the hospital. Gretchen wanted to miss Sunday school for them, but her father encouraged her not to miss Sunday school to keep her perfect grades. At the behest of her father, she agreed, took her Bible, and headed to Sunday school. She left her home alone by waving goodbye to her father sometime around 9:30 a.m., unaware that she would never return. Usually, she walked there with her older sisters, but they both stayed home that morning. Gretchen wasn't afraid to walk alone as the church was less than a mile away from her house. The Sunday school lessons consisted of 2 sessions. First, the children had to gather at Trinity Church, and in the second session, after about an hour and a half, some of them headed to Gretchen's father's church. But later that morning at sometime around 11:15 a.m., when the kids arrived at the second church, Gretchen's father noticed that his daughter was not among them. It seemed strange because the children were brought as a group. He spoke with Trinity's pastor, David Zanstra, and his wife, Margie, both of whom worked at the Sunday school. She said Gretchen wasn't there and told her husband about what was happening. He was surprised because Gretchen hadn't even attended his classes that morning. Gretchen's father and David knew each other well. David contacted the police department on Gretchen's father's request and reported Gretchen was missing. David described the girl as being 8 years old with blonde hair and pigtails around 3'6" in tall and 50 pounds. She was last seen wearing dark blue shorts with a zipper, a snap-in front and a white top. Immediately police started searching Gretchen along with her father. The father drove along the route between the churches and checked other streets nearby, but Gretchen was nowhere to be found. He also reached out to her friends' parents, hoping she might have decided to spend time with some of them, but they were all either at church or home. David's daughter also hadn't seen her all day. As the sun set that day just before 8 p.m., there was still no sign of Gretchen. David's wife brought supper to Gretchen's home, where her mom seemed resigned to the fact that she would never see her daughter alive again. She was just kind of accepting of the fact that Gretchen was gone. The next day, hundreds of people were involved in the search for Gretchen. A Pennsylvania State Police helicopter buzzed the area continuously. The search continued into the night but yielded no results. The third day, even more volunteers joined in. The police created flyers with Gretchen's photo and information about her disappearance, which were posted along roads and handed out to passing drivers. Despite all efforts, the police didn't find Gretchen, even though they couldn't determine what happened to her. After several days of searching, they didn't find any significant leads at all, and Gretchen's fate remained unknown. Gretchen's disappearance changed everything in the local community. Parents stopped letting their children out unsupervised. Before this incident, people were used to letting their children roam the streets freely from a young age. Nothing like this had ever happened before. The kids could spend hours wandering in the woods, swimming in the river without adult supervision, and their parents never worried. But now all of that was in the past. People discussed various theories, but no one knows what happened with Gretchen. Some thought she might have run away from home, others believed she went swimming in the river and drowned. But the most frightening theory was that someone had abducted her. One local woman even cut her daughter's long hair so she would resemble a boy. Once a safe and peaceful town, overnight it became a place where people lived in uncertainty and fear. On the other hand, police started interviews with camp teachers, parents, and potential witnesses. Through interviews, they gained crucial pieces of information. One witness stated that either a green station wagon or a light top and dark brown bottom Cadillac stopped to talk to a girl near the church, but they couldn't be sure if it was Gretchen. One day, police got a new lead when a resident of Westchester, located 30 minutes away from Broomall, called the police and said that he had found some children's clothes matching the description of Gretchen's clothing. Police immediately showed the clothes to Gretchen's mother, who said they didn't belong to her daughter. From then on, there was no progress in the case. For several weeks, the police called off the search operation and focused on the investigation. Police, along with her father and several other community people, were continuously searching, but with each passing day, their hope of finding Gretchen alive diminished. 2 months later, on October 14th, a chilling call came to the police. A man went for a jog in Ridley Creek State Park, about a 20-minute drive from Broomall, where he saw something strange in the bushes. At first, he didn't realize what it was, but when he came closer, he suddenly realized it was a human body. He immediately ran to the park rangers to inform them of the discovery, and they called the police. The remains were removed from the scene and transported to the medical examiner's office. Officers quickly realized the remains were those of a child, but due to the extent of decomposition, identifying the child was extremely challenging. Detectives assumed it might be Gretchen, so they showed her parents photos of the clothing, which had been left carefully folded next to the remains. Gretchen's family identified the clothing as ones her mother made. Through dental records, the medical examiner positively identified the remains as Gretchen. Soon after, forensic experts confirmed her cause of death was a cranial cerebral injury from blunt force trauma. She suffered 2 or more impacts to her skull, leaving a depressed skull fracture. Due to the level of decomposition, her body skeletonized. They couldn't determine any other details, including whether the victim had been sexually assaulted. No evidence was present to support this discovery because DNA analysis didn't exist in 1975. So investigators were once again left without any clues. Several suspects, including some known child offenders, were questioned, but none led to an arrest. On October 30th, police called David for an interview. He said that on August 15th, he picked up the group of children around 11 a.m. and was back at Trinity by 11:15 a.m. David denied seeing Gretchen that whole day and claimed he didn't know she was missing until Harold called the church around 11:30 a.m. Despite the new interview, the investigation hit a dead end. Several months after the discovery of the body, the case completely stalled, and there have been no developments since then. Over the years, the investigation into Gretchen's murder was reopened multiple times, each attempt ending in frustration. Detectives diligently followed up on every tip they received, but without any concrete evidence, the case remained cold. Even the advent of DNA testing brought no breakthroughs, as no foreign traces were found on Gretchen's clothes or body. Despite occasional mentions in newspapers and on TV, the case faded from the public eye. Here, you probably thought that it was the end of the story, but you were wrong. Here, this case took a huge twist. After 47 years, in 2022, Joanna and Mike, 2 local journalists, released their book about Gretchen's murder, and it immediately attracted significant attention. You might be wondering to hear that they both grew up in Broomall, and being around Gretchen's age when she was killed, both had a personal connection to the case. The book's major impact came months later when a woman contacted the police with crucial information. She met with the lead detective to share her story. The woman told investigators on January 2nd that she was friends with Mr. Zanstra's daughters and frequently played at the Zanstra home, often staying overnight. During 2 of these sleepovers, she was awakened by Mr. Zanstra touching her groin area. Eventually, she confided in her parents about the incidents. Her parents stopped her from visiting Zandstra house. It happened several weeks before this incident. During her interview, the woman showed investigators a diary she kept as a girl. In one entry dated September 15, 1975, she wrote,
"Guess what? A man tried to kidnap Holly twice, referring to a girl in her class." She continued, "It's a secret, so I can't tell anyone, but I think he might be the one who kidnapped Gretchen. I think it was Mr. Z, clearly implicating Mr. Zandstra."
This interview and the journal entry prompted investigators to track down Mr. Zandstra, who was living in Marietta, northwest of Atlanta. Investigators interviewed Mr. Zandstra at the Cobb County Police Headquarters in Marietta on July 17. Initially, he denied seeing Gretchen on the day she went missing. However, he eventually confessed. Mr. Zandstra admitted that he saw Gretchen walking to church that morning and picked her up in his green AMC Rambler station wagon. Instead of taking her to church, he drove her to a nearby wooded area, parked the car, and told Gretchen to remove her clothes. When she refused, he assaulted her. He told the police that he ejaculated while Gretchen was in the vehicle with him, according to the police complaint. After that, Mr. Zandstra said he struck Gretchen with his fist, causing her to bleed from her head. Realizing that Gretchen appeared to be dead, Mr. Zandstra told the police he attempted to cover up her half-naked body with sticks and then left the area. Mr. Stahlsteimer, a lead detective, said at the news conference on Monday, "He murdered, with his bare hands, this poor young girl and then lied about it for 48 years. Investigators took a DNA sample from Zandstra and will compare it to open cases in Pennsylvania and across the country, and they are asking anyone with additional information about Zandstra's activities to contact the Pennsylvania State Police." Guys, but one key detail stands out about this case. Do you think there was a mistake in the police investigation? When the police interviewed David, he said he didn't see Gretchen that morning. However, he was able to describe her clothing in detail. This inconsistency raises questions about the investigation and whether all leads were thoroughly examined. If you believe that the police's lack of thorough investigation delayed justice for Gretchen for 49 years, you can comment under the video with something like this. "In my opinion, the police's lack of proper investigation caused Gretchen's case to remain unsolved for 49 years. Unfortunately, it took so long for justice to be served." If you found this video informative and want to see more content like this, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Your support helps us continue to bring you important stories. Thank you for watching.